And welcome back to the Health No Filter podcast. My name's Tristan Lowe, and here we are now, first week in June 2025. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I'm holding up two books, two paperback books here. One is The Lonely Planet Guide to China, and this one here is Brian J. Jones's account of the world famous movie franchise owner George Lucas, who started the Star Wars franchise back in the early to mid 1970s. And the reason I'm holding these two books are because today is section 3 or part 3 of my discussions on stress and how to manage it. I don't think I get stressed out personally. There can be a stressful situation which might last 1 minute or half an hour or 1 day, but generally I handle stress pretty well, considering I've got a lot on with running a business, running a home, staying in touch with friends, family, my girlfriend, nieces, nephews, mum, dads, clients, and of course just the normal everyday stresses of normal everyday life. But one of the things I do to handle stress is, as you know, I'm a professional personal trainer, so I exercise myself regular. I've been exercising for over 40 years already. But something else I do is I travel as best I can on a limited budget with what resources I've got, and also I'm a movie fan as well as a big time music fan. If you look to the camera here, and these are vinyl copies, the covers of some of my all-time favourite artists, and you've got Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Mary J. Blige, and up in the top corner there you've got Kool and the Gang and Jodeci, some of the greatest jazz and R&B stars of all time. But of course the thumbnail is Lonely Planet Guide to China and George Lucas, A Life, a Biography. And this is the Bible about George Lucas as well. What's in here actually went down. Now, I have a multitude of suggestions that I'll make to my personal training or sports massage clients of how to handle stress. We talked about that in part 1 and part 2. But something that I do as well is I stop. Okay, I stop, whether it be for a minute, an hour, a day, and I read. And it'll be about health, fitness, music, movies, and travel. And I find that if you read a book, whether it be a biography, autobiography, whether it be fiction, non-fiction, an account, generally read something that's not about your normal everyday life. So if you work in retail, just for a change, read something that's not about retail. You know, these two books here, travel and movies, aren't, you know, that's not my career. My career is not about travel. My career, my profession is not about movies. You know, I'm not a movie critic, even though people that know me well, I'm the first to critique a movie, but I'm not a movie critic. So I would say another thing to do to handle stress is to read a book about something that isn't your norm. You know, my girlfriend reads books, I would call them fantasy. She also reads books about business because she runs a business, but generally she reads books about, you know, fantasy topics, you know, like dragon, like Game of Thrones, that kind of thing. But it's just almost an escape, getaway from your normal routine of work, you know, rest, play, family, business, home, so I would say get used to reading books again, and the subject could be about something you don't normally do in everyday life. If you're a bricklayer, don't read a book on bricklaying. That's not to say don't ever do it, but if you're stressed out and you're a bricklayer, read a book on travel, read a book on movies, on music, or complete fiction, you know, something that's tied into one of your favorite franchises, something like that. You know, if you work in HR, human resources, that can be a stressful position because or profession, because you're constantly dealing with different people's thoughts, feelings, facts, systems, gripes, if you will, on how to handle systems, legal matters. So if you work in HR and you're a bit stressed out, yes, you should exercise. Yes, you should eat healthy and get a good sleep, but also read a book or listen to some vinyl. Or if you're on Spotify or one of those streaming channels, listen to some music, listen to something different. I often, although I'm a music fan, I'm a long time fan of New York hip hop, other hip hop from different places in America, like Atlanta and LA, but predominantly, and Chicago, predominantly New York hip hop. Me being 54 years of age, I've been listening to hip hop since I was 11 or 12 years of age. So but I also listen to jazz and funk and soul and R&B and movie scores. You know, look in the background there, and that is a poster from a 1960s movie, a spaghetti western. So I'm a big movie fan. I listen to a lot of movie scores as well. And of course, it's nothing to do with my line of work. It's nothing to do with health and fitness, nothing to do with running a business or keeping your house in order. It's just a half an hour to an hour of, for want of a better word, escapism. And so if you've got physical, mental, emotional, geographical, financial, professional stress, alleviate it with the big three: good sleep, good nutrition and exercise, but also give yourself a break from those as well. Go and read a book, listen to some music. What works for me may not work for you. What's good for the goose isn't always good for the gander. Life doesn't work where what works for me as a professional personal trainer age 54 may not work for you as a banker, aged 38 or 68, or a woman working in retail, in a retail shop. You may find your own channel or your own outlet for not getting rid of, but managing stress. So first thing to do is to try and manage it or alleviate it. You can't just get rid of it overnight. It doesn't work like that. As resilient as our bodies are, they can also be the opposite. They can also be open or susceptible, and I suspect it's probably the latter as well, that our bodies and brains are more susceptible than stress if you are unfit, unhealthy, and you consume excess alcohol, excess processed foods, you smoke, you vape, you stay awake late at night, you have late nights, you sleep in too much, you've got a stressful environment in work, people that you work with or work under or work above, in whichever form. You may have a cluttered house. I've talked about this before. Your house may be cluttered with rubbish. Now, what's rubbish to one person is gold to someone else. We know that, and I agree with that. But there is actually a threshold when you've got too much stuff in your house. It's a form of stress. It's clutter. It's actually what you're doing is you're taking away visible and geographical inside your four walls, your home. You're taking away clarity. You're removing forms of clarity by putting too much stuff in your house. So go back to it. Get yourself a book. George Lucas, he changed movies. He changed the way that Hollywood worked. George Lucas was very, very stressed out during the formative part of his career as a movie director, movie producer. He actually he was what they call a maverick in Hollywood. He went against the norms in Hollywood in the 60s, 70s and 80s as an independent filmmaker. He wanted to make the film that he wanted to, bring the directors, script writers, producers, artists and actors that he wanted. He had a very stressful 30 years, between the age of late teens to probably his mid to late 40s, probably even into his 50s, because he essentially made 6 Star Wars movies, the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, so from the 70s and the 90s, not the rubbish you see now that are put out by Disney. This was the guy who went through physical, mental, emotional and financial stress to essentially project and finalize his vision of inventing a world, a make-believe world, albeit, and some like Star Wars, some don't, but essentially he got through a stressful period, and I think he's worth about $5 billion now, after selling out Star Wars and Lucasfilm Studio to Disney, to Bob Iger and Disney. But that would have been stressful for him as well. It turned out it was, because yes, it made him one of the richest men in the world, but equally he had the stress of in the knowledge that they were highly likely going to water down his product and try and tamper with what he'd built, because essentially once they paid him $4 or $5 billion for the rights to Star Wars, they also got him to sign away any sort of collaborative input. He had no rights or bearings on what Star Wars could or couldn't be once they got their grubby mitts on it, but they paid him handsomely for it. So he's stressed out now as someone who's about 70 years or older, and he's worth about $5 billion. Now, if we go back to the other book that I held up in the thumbnail at the beginning, China. And the reason that I've got this book here, it was bought for me, and I've got quite a few of these travel books around the world. It's because this year I'm traveling to China. Last year I went to Japan, and the year before that I went to Nepal. But this year in 2025, I'm going to China. Now, traveling can be stressful. You know, I've talked about that in a previous episode, but I'm going to read about things to do in China. I'm going to 3 parts in China. Just me and 2 of my friends with packs on our backs. We're going to go across 3 parts of China. So, and that can be stressful. Traveling long haul flights, long haul distance, eating different foods, sleeping at different times, jet lag, trying to understand different systems and different languages and different rules to adhere to as well. You know, China is not Spain. You know, China is not Greece or Cyprus. China is the Far East, the oriental part of the Far East. And as vast as the country is, it's also set in its ways as well, probably in a good way. So I'm going to enjoy myself there, and I'm going to manage what can be stressful situations with reasoning, understanding, forward planning, and actually a little bit of adventure as well. And this will take me out for that 2-week period while I'm traveling. It will take me out of my normal stresses of running a business and looking after clients and looking after my staff or my teammates, if you want, for want of a better word, excuse me, for running the home and looking and spending time with friends, family, my girlfriend. All those things are good. They're good stresses, but they're still stress. And this will take me away from it. And when I come back, I'll be tired, worn out, but I would have seen things that, you know, I've wanted to see for years. I wanted to go to this country, so I'm going to do that this year. It says here, pack a well-made pair of traveling shoes and remember the words of Lao Tzu. I'm probably butchering that name here. Yeah. Lao Tzu's journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Okay. Well, we'll find out. There's lots to do in there. And so there you go. There's a couple of things I do, movies, music and travel, to alleviate or in some cases actually get rid of certain stresses. But of course we always have to come back from watching a movie, reading a book, listening to some music or traveling the world to face those stresses again. But our bodies and brains, our nervous system, our immune system, you know, our emotional part of our body, our musculoskeletal system even, will be hopefully more predisposed to managing stress. Okay, that's it. Tell me what works for you. If alcohol and pharmaceuticals and narcotics and late nights and processed food and zero exercise and stressful people around you, okay, are the norm, you can't switch that off overnight. What you can do is start doing little things to alleviate it and or manage it, okay? It's not going to happen overnight. It could take a week, a month, a year, 3 years, 5 years, but start now. Manage it. Do not surround yourself with negative people. Yeah. If you've got that in the workplace, move to a different department. If you've got that at home, well, that's for you to sort out. You know, that could be a little bit more trickier. That's a bit more hard to manage and hard to navigate. But there's always a way around it, as long as no one gets hurt. All right. My name's Tristan Lowe. The podcast is Health No Filter. Fast approaching 100 episodes. And what I would like is for you to subscribe to the channel and share. You can catch me, Health No Filter, on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the socials. For now, thanks for listening to part 3 of my discussion on stress. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye for now.